Welcome back to a new video. These videos are seemingly getting longer each time I make them, but it's just a week of my training, so I suppose it's just how I edit some of my pulls and stuff, where it's just one continuous clip. But I'll kind of just riff about different things because this video is going to be quite long. But the week of training has gone really well. So in the middle of this week, I believe it was Thursday, on the third heavy day, I was able to get up to, oh yeah, I missed an 80 power snatch. It was pretty weird, but came back and made it. But I was able to make 120 midway through the week and do a 153 clean and jerk on the same day. So what, like 273 total. I believe the previous best in this little training block was a day where I did 115 and 155 for 270. So I tried, or I was thinking of trying after the 153 heavier weight, but I missed it the first time, then made it pretty ugly on the second one. So things are going, well for weightlifting, for not doing really enough of it to progress it really aggressively. But squats are going really well. So I really had this idea of just continuing to progress them in sets of 4 and then sets of 2. But what I'm kind of noticing is that the fatigue kind of exponentially has gone up. As far as my ability to, do heavier sets of 4 or whatever with that. So I think I've basically gotten everything I wanted out of my squat progression. If you've seen the recent video, I think it will be posted before this one. If you see it on Instagram or short or whatever, I did the 230 double for a PR squat, as well as the 220 triple, which was a PR for triple, as well as doing the 215 prior to that, which is a PR triple as well. So squats themselves have been going fantastic, and the progress is definitely there. I think the idea of me hitting a PR is very possible, but with the holidays coming up, I'm shifting a little bit and not really changing training itself. I suppose in some sense, the structure that I currently have will be changing a little bit, but I'm going to try to peak a little bit, kind of, I guess, like a mini peak. So not really trying to, do a competition or hit a lifetime PR or anything like that. But I'll kind of will talk through it. I've written it out in my big dry erase board so I can kind of visually see the next 11 days. So on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, I'm going to be traveling home. I don't have school on that day, so I have the whole day to kind of, relax, travel, train, all that good stuff. And really have two different potential options. The first one is to lift in Columbus at a, Clintonville, the train there, which I've done one other time, and then I've competed there before. And that's kind of what I'm planning on. It kind of stinks that I think it's $25 for a day pass, which is not cheap, but the equipment and everything there is really nice, at least from what I remember. So don't necessarily mind paying a premium when it's nice stuff. I was kind of actually, today when I trained, I had considered going back to RTS, the gym down here, to do just a day pass. But for $25 to train with a Rogue training bar didn't really seem worth it. If it was like a facility that had a bunch of, they have, really nice bumpers as far as the Rogue stuff, and that's not as important, but, like Alico stuff, as far as barbells go, it's kind of what I'm envisioning paying for a premium, like $25 for, 1 day of training. Clintonville, there, I don't know what exactly kind of barbells. I remember them being nice, so I don't have any particular issues with that, but also the fact that I can only really go there when I travel home. I'm not generally going to drive. It's I think an hour and 45 minutes from my house, and it's a convenient location in a sense. It's weird to say that, saying that's an hour and 45 minutes, but it is literally on the way home, driving north for, it's 3 hours and 20 minutes, but it actually doesn't take me too much out of the way, and it's just on the way, almost halfway. I guess a little bit more than halfway, but once you go off the highway, that makes it more so halfway. So it's not really an inconvenient place to train. So tentatively, that's the plan, is to train there, just to have a different environment. So in a sense, I'm trying to at least be prepared to go heavy when I go there. So I guess I can kind of work backwards a little bit and kind of just talk in generalities, because it's hard for me to remember the specific days. But generally, the goal when I go there, like I said, is to lift heavy. I don't really want to put like a specific number that if I don't hit, I'm going to be disappointed. But I'm putting at least the goal, or at least the idea, or at least the potential of working up to 128 in the snatch. So doing snatches normally, 120, then attempt 125. And then if I'm able to make that, attempt 128, which would be, I think, the most since the spring. So it'd be a really nice number to hit, and dissipating some of the fatigue from the back squats and stuff might give me a little bit of a boost with that. Maybe not. Maybe I won't be able to get up to that, but at the same time, it'll give me a kind of a good benchmark as I start to adjust training a little bit, since my legs have clearly gotten stronger, and I think it's a good time to start trying to apply that. And I think this time frame kind of gives me a nice time to potentially work towards the start of applying that in the next kind of block of training. For clean and jerks, I'm going to most likely do 145 and then try to jump to 155 and then do 163. And now the reason for picking 128 and 163, those would in theory be numbers that I would be able to get, maybe less so for the snatch. That would be more so like a second attempt. But for the clean and jerk, if I could open at 163, and honestly, if I could open at 128 and then attempt 130 plus on the snatch on the second attempt, or attempt like 170 or 168, whatever, on the clean and jerk for, either, well, I guess it would be both a competition PR and a lifetime PR, or, in the case of the snatch, a competition PR, but to kind of see where I'm at in relation to those numbers. But obviously, if I'm not able to be prepared, in the spring to do potentially, PRs in competition or lifetime, at that competition, I'm not, pressing myself to necessarily do that, but it is kind of nice to have that test, that kind of like big event that I do, even though it's just a local meet, because I'm not worried about going to nationals and doing any sort of arbitrary meet or competition. For me, that competition gives me, sufficient motivation to push for heavier numbers, whether I'm competing against anyone or not. I'm very intrinsically motivated, which is, I think, perhaps, I don't want to talk down on myself, but I do think it's one of potentially my best gifts, is that I'm able to lift well without being around other people or having a coach and stuff like that. I do think, obviously, I'm good at other things, but I do find the ability for me just to be able to go and train. For instance, the 220 back squat for a triple, I was completely alone in the gym, just with music. And to do a lifetime PR without the positive peer pressure of someone, motivating you while you're there, is interesting that I'm able to do that. And I've done it many times, and many times for different lifts. And I'm not one to say that being around other people or whatever doesn't help in the motivation. It definitely does, but it's interesting that you can still progress without that. Obviously, I think most people would prefer to be around other people when they're training versus not, but at the same time, if you have goals that you want to achieve, you're not always going to be able to train with the same people that you always want to train with, or the schedules and life and everything gets in the way. And the more important thing is to work towards your plan. Outside of so on that Wednesday, in a perfect world, I would get up to 128 in the snatch, and then 163 in the clean jerk, and then in the back squat, that's really tentative. If I could go up to 235, that'd be really dope. If I even tried more than that, that'd be really cool. But for me, the back squat right now, I mean, the fact that I did 230 for a double just means that my legs are pretty objectively stronger than they were at really any point in my life. They're certainly the strongest they've ever been. So I'm not necessarily worried about, increasing a 1 rep max when I can pretty safely say that they are stronger than they were when I did the 520 squat, or was it 234 or 7 or whatever it was in kilos. If I could do a 240 back squat, that'd be really cool. But I also, don't want to destroy myself trying to do a PR that is important. Obviously I would like to hit one, but I want to hit bigger lifts and the weightlifting movements. And if that means that, I do something like 235 and play a little safer, then I'm fine with that. And to be frank, I haven't done 235 in a while. Let me look up and see what that is in pounds so I can visualize that, because I know 230 is 507, so it would be like 518, I believe. So we'll put that to pounds. Yeah, so 518, and so that's just under a PR of 520. So I did essentially it's 236, which I've only done one time, and I think that's an important thing when you are looking at PRs. You always want to obviously improve your lifetime maxes, but the fact that if you're able to train and get up to that max, particularly when you're getting to, I would say, a more advanced level like I'm at, like if I'm able to get back to a 520 squat and make it look easier, like same with the 230, like not only am I able to get to a 507 squat or whatever, but I'm able to do it for a double. That's a pretty massive amount of progress, I would say. The 220 for 3, like I'm starting to, a lot of these numbers that I'm hitting for volume sets and now for these top triples, triple sets and doubles are the point where obviously I haven't done them ever before, so they're lifetime PRs in that sense, and I would say pretty important ones, obviously, to have stronger legs with that. And during this block, I kind of fallen away from doing front squats, which is something I'll do a little bit these next 11 days. It's not really enough time to really do them a lot and get any sort of big benefit from them, but there's at least one day where I'm going to do some. But for me, the back squats, obviously they're correlating pretty well to my lifts, Olympic lifts going well. Even though I'm showing you a miss right there, you're going to see several misses in this session. But even just doing singles and then just focusing on the back squat, my main lifts have gone pretty well, which is interesting. But after that, so 235, after those hopeful numbers, I would say kind of like on a minimum on that day, because you never know, going to a different setting in a different situation 11 days from now, you can obviously predict pretty accurately, but you never know, if I'm going to be sick or, I don't know, sore, dehydrated. You never know. There's a million things that could happen. But I would say, if I'm able to get up to the 120 and get up to the 158 or whatever, the attempt before, I'd be quite happy with a day like that. If I even did 115 and it felt, really difficult or whatever, I definitely think, based on, how I'm moving right now and the fact that I'm not really peaked for weightlifting specifically, I definitely think that even in this 11-day span, I might be able to get up to some, pretty nice numbers on that day. And even if that means, I get up to 120 and I miss 125, I'm not that worried about it. It just kind of sets the mark for where I want to be once it's, weightlifting time, which it kind of is going to be to that point, because, it's not really going to benefit me much more to necessarily get my squat, to double 235 or 240 or try to, do a single even more than that or whatever. Obviously, in a sense, it would help, but it's kind of need to work on the movements too. I don't know. It's a balancing act, but I kind of am still kind of contemplating or thinking about what things will look like after Thanksgiving break. But I might also, I wrote down 306 on the deadlift. Now, whether I actually attempt that on that day, who knows? I think that I still have the idea of wanting to do a double with 300 before I attempt another PR. So I think that's a more, it's hard to say realistic goal, but a more understandable thing for me to attempt on that day. So at least a heavy pull, because obviously, I'm not going to train Thursday on Thanksgiving. And depending on really how recovered I am from that session, I probably won't train that Friday as well, so it'll probably be 2 days off of training. Because what will most likely happen, regardless of how well or bad I train on that Wednesday, Thursday, I won't be able to train. Just I'll be doing Thanksgiving stuff, nor would I really want to train on that day anyway. But Friday, I'll be driving home, 3.5 hours. So I might train, might not. I don't really want to, plan on doing it because you never know. It's not a good idea to plan any sort of difficult training after 3.5 hours of driving. So if I did train, it'd be pretty light, but then, after that, be able to get back into the swing of it. I thought originally of going up to Rubber City weightlifting in Canton, Ohio, and training there on Friday. But with how heavy I'm planning on going on Wednesday, I most likely wouldn't really feel good to train on Friday or even the Saturday if I wanted to stay and train with people. So I don't think it would be that beneficial. And I think just kind of control that Wednesday, I feel like it's more in control, driving, a whole bunch, and then Thanksgiving and all of just being at home. Like there's a good chance I just won't feel like doing much on that Friday anyway. And I wouldn't really want to put like all my eggs in that basket. Wednesday, I'm not going to have school that day, so I'm going to be sleeping in. I'm going to be, prepared to drive home, and it's still an hour and 45 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever it is to Columbus, but that's certainly much more manageable than 3.5 hours and Thanksgiving and then all of that stuff in the way of it. So it's kind of the plan on that day, and kind of just working backwards from there. Or just is it like a normal peaking week or 11 days, I suppose, where I'm going to have Monday of this week, or tomorrow's just light, so like power snatches and some power cleans and push presses. But Monday, some singles in the snatch and the clean jerk. I believe at 110 is the idea. In the snatch to do like 5 singles there, and then in the clean jerk to work up to 145. So a slightly different jump than I've been making. But instead of going from 140 to 150, I would like to be able to go to 145 to 155, so that I can make that jump from 155 potentially to 163, which would be what I would potentially do in a competition setting. So that's kind of like my thought behind those numbers. I don't want to take a bunch of clean jerk attempts. It's just going to wear me out. But if I can get up to 163 as like an opener, sounds really heavy, saying that, but in my last comp, I was able to open at 160. And if I was able to go to, in a perfect world, I would just go right to 170, honestly, and just give that a whirl. In a competition setting, I think I have a decent chance of being able to do that. And with just honestly how strong my legs are right now, I don't think it's that unrealistic of a number to think about doing, especially because, I did 166, and you probably put 1 and 2 together. If I would have made the 166 on the first attempt, what my next attempt would have been, obviously 170. So, it's been a number that has been contemplated for sure. So, and definitely a competition setting like the clean would be much easier than in training. So it's something I would like to obviously get closer, increase the 166 before then, but that's kind of the thought behind that. So kind of maybe get up to opener second attempts for snatch, and then like an opening attempt clean and jerk, or at least what would in theory be what it is. Obviously, you never know. Maybe I get a lot stronger before then and I can open heavier, but honestly for the snatch, like the most I'd ever want to probably open in a comp would be 125 or 6 or whatever. Honestly, if I could open that 128, it'd be really dope, because I'd be a competition PR, and then I'd be able to go to above 130 and attempt 131 or 2 or whatever, and then maybe 135. But we got to get the shoulder even better than where it is now, which honestly I think it's pretty much like, I think it's like 99%. Like I'm pretty confident with it every single day. I don't have much discomfort. The mobility is definitely there. It's just something I want to continue to kind of hammer. But something interesting. So I don't think, well, I guess I've talked enough about kind of the peak, but I have talked about that Monday. The Wednesday of this week, I guess that, yeah, because that would be 1 week away. I'll try to get up to some pretty heavy numbers. I don't want to necessarily, go up to whatever I want to do on that Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but push pretty hard on that Wednesday, kind of how Lasha does, 7 days out. It's generally a good rule of thumb. So it's not even just because he's Lasha, it's actually just good programming to kind of have that be your last max out day. And that's generally what I've done the last, at minimum 5 days, at most 7, but like kind of between there, that 6 or 7 days before is usually a good mark. And generally, I mean, if you want to go heavier or have like a meat day, doing a little bit less or being a little bit more conservative is probably better, just so you can be as recovered as possible. But that will be like a heavy day for kind of all 4 of the main lifts, and I want to do heavy the next week. So I do plan, heavy snatch, clean jerk, back squat probably. I mean, honestly, I could try 235. The back squat I can kind of go crazy with if I want. But I mean, with how good the 230 went today, so it's it's weird because I'm like, I just do 230. But I was like, I just did it for a double, and it was really hard, but it wasn't like I couldn't do more weight. So we'll have to see. After a couple days of lighter training, I might recover a bit better. Not doing volume in the back squat, I might recover really quickly. So it might be interesting, the amount that I'm able to recover. But something like 230 to 235 on that day, and then a pull, deadlift of some sort up to like 275. That I want to be pretty conservative with because it's not as important. But if I could do 300 for a double, that'd be pretty dope. And 275 is still a heavy pull, but it's not anything I couldn't pull fast or recover from very quickly. And then a couple normal days of leg light stuff and all of that. And then I want to say the Monday before, I might have more snatches and clean jerks. So it's not like a super hard deload like I'm actually doing competition. So I'm only taking the day off, the Tuesday before off entirely. And then the day before that, I'm training, not entirely normally, but training a little bit. And then just kind of deloading like that. So I think it'll be a good kind of conclusion to this block, because I think if I didn't have anything else to do, or Thanksgiving or any holiday, like this next week would have been, next 11 days, how it is now, would be kind of the end of this squat cycle. I'd be, maybe attempting a PR, or at least attempting, like 235 or something that I haven't done in a while. And, being able to hit that would be really dope. So even if I just got to 235, I'd be really fine with that. I don't know. It's weird because I usually am not able to kind of like have that strength reserve in such an extreme way. Usually if I do cleans and stuff, it's pretty close to like what I can front squat, or like, my squats haven't necessarily been going bad even before this cycle, but it's interesting how well they've responded to the tens and stuff. It kind of just gives me that information for the next block to kind of look at that to see, how I can implement that in and maybe change some things on the other days to really just hammer the back squats, because that seemed to kind of push everything pretty well and my legs respond pretty well. And if I have a really good response in this like little peak, this will tell me that not only did the leg strength go up, of course, but that it's probably the correct course. And I'm trying not to be too hard on myself if it doesn't go perfect, because excuse me, I had a weird burp there, because I've only snatched up to 120 and 155 in the clean jerk, which they're really good numbers for any time of training. But even now when it's just doing singles essentially in the snatch and clean jerk, so obviously doing a block that's more focused on weightlifting will benefit those numbers a little bit more, which gives me a lot of hope for the kind of the beginning of 2025 building into the spring, that I could probably do a similar squat cycle like I did now. Maybe not as aggressive, doing 4 volume sets in a week or whatever, but with the sets of 10 they seem to respond pretty well. But kind of just like look at what I did and adapt a little bit, and maybe change one of the days to maybe focus more on front squats or something like that, and just kind of just look ahead and kind of see that this or that worked and adjust. But in general, the structure of having a snatch, a clean jerk, and a squat day, essentially 3 exercises on each day. And these days, off days, or I guess the other days, have kind of devolved into me just pressing and pulling, which I don't think is necessarily bad. But I do have an addiction to heavy deadlifts, so there's always a risk that I'll just go bonkers in the deadlift. And I will say towards the end of this block, I forgot to edit that out there, explains the extremely long clips, but we're just going to leave them in. So here's me just talking at the live stream. If you ever pop into a live stream, I sometimes stream my workouts in the shed. So that explains why these some of these clips are really long. But we're just gonna leave it in, because you get to see me stand there. You get to see what it looks like when I'm live streaming. Although you'd be able to see my face because I use my phone, like I said. But what was I saying? Pulling and pressing in the shed will be good, and potentially, doing something else. I don't know what third exercise would really fit in. That would be easy. Maybe something like a barbell row. But for me, that's kind of hard to, like when I'm doing pulls, it's kind of hard to justify doing those because works really similar muscles, so it's kind of redundant. And the pulls usually give me enough volume. But honestly, the pulling and the pressing has been seemingly enough for these kind of days. So if I do another block similar to this after Thanksgiving, having these days be focused on, just two things, or just, simple things like pressing and pulling, I think won't be bad at all. I think it'll be really beneficial. And honestly, like I did the squat today, the 230 for a double, and yesterday I pulled 300 kilos. So I clearly can still lift heavy, even if I do a heavy pull or whatever the next day, but obviously will slow me down. And that's kind of what I'm starting to notice a little bit with a lot of these big lifts, as far as the strength lifts, is that I'm not really feeling very fast in the weightlifting movements, which logically makes sense. I'm doing slower lifts, so I'm moving slower. So naturally, in other movements, I'm going to move slow as well, and that will be kind of like one thing to kind of think about when I'm planning in the spring to have a block of squat training, and a block of, well, always squat training, of course, but to have a block of heavier squat training or faster squat training, and kind of using that to differentiate when I'm focusing on weightlifting stuff or not. And just thinking about it, this wasn't my sumo deadlift. I forgot, I didn't see that as I was doing it, but yeah, I did a sumo deadlift for the first time in a year and PR'd by about 55 pounds, I believe, which is always hilarious. It's actually easier than conventional, even though my sumo is really bad technique. It was still easier, which is odd. It's really odd to say because I never practice it, don't do any mobility for it. And I will say that like people who get in a really wide sumo stance do need to have really good hip mobility. So it is something that I don't naturally have, that like external rotation of the hips. I'm sure I could develop it more if I wanted to, but it's kind of a thing that I've always done conventional because it's felt better, and I've experimented with sumo, but I've never had that crazy hip mobility. So conventional's always felt better, regardless of whatever my opinion was on either one. I did have friends that did sumo and had better mobility as far as their hips went. So it's probably just honestly how my hips are inserted, to why I'm not able to really get into a really advantageous position for like the most optimal sumo pull. And you can argue that if I really stretch my hips and stuff, I could probably get in a better position, but it's just not really worth it for me to really really focus on. Obviously, I don't care much what I deadlift in any form, but really don't care about how much I sumo. It's just more for memes than anything. But whatchamacallit, I think, is this 300 now? I think I have the bar fully loaded. Eventually, might have to get another red plate for the house if I ever get stronger than the 300 deadlift. But like 305 would be kind of difficult to load on there, but 300 I can get all the way on there. That's the true limit. I suppose if I got another green and I took off the 5 and the 2.5 on the outside, I could potentially put that on. But now we're just talking about like the issues of the length of the bar. I just need to go to the gym and try to do a heavy deadlift with the kilo plates, the powerlifting plates, and that would be sufficient. But at some point that might be the focus. Like a 700-pound deadlift would be cool to do, but certainly not anytime soon. I don't know, it's interesting to have such a productive squat cycle. And I think another topic I kind of want to mention, maybe this will be a more controversial one, but on the day this week where I did the 156 clean and jerk and then the 180 back squats for sets of 4, my right knee became very inflamed, near the patella, that area. Actually not my quad tendon at all, like literally like that patella area. And it was like really painful, really uncomfortable. And tried, I'm sure some people have heard of this, but it's called DMSO or something like that. And tried putting something down on, and strangely helped. And a lot of people could probably argue is placebo, and I'm not one to, obviously discount that. That's a very valid thing. But I was really surprised with how quickly the inflammation decreased, because I had one knee that was a different size than the other, and obviously I could look and objectively see that prior to that. And I put it on. I didn't really think that it was going to work or anything, but I was like, I bought it, so I might as well try it. Like, no harm, no foul. Put it on, let it dry or whatever. Then ended up taking a shower, and then I got out, and I don't want to say my knee. It's like, oh, my knee worked, but like, the stiffness that I had, the soreness that I had from that training was pretty much gone. It was back to basically baseline, which is really interesting. I've been experimenting using it pretty much every day since I got it. It hasn't really changed my life in any sort of meaningful way, but I did have that positive effect on the first day, and it hasn't like irritated my skin or anything like that. So I'm curious if I bought some of the same product that's in a cream form, if that will have some benefits as well. But I've read some positive stuff about it. One guy, he was a guitar player, and he uses it for his joints, and I mean, anything to kind of help, get through stuff and, avoid kind of extreme inflammation, because obviously things are going to get inflamed via training no matter what. But obviously you want to avoid the crazy discomfort. And I think the important thing is to, in general, avoid any remedy if you can by, just adequately hydrating and recovering and stretching and all of that stuff, and not just depending on a placebo. On this day, obviously a 300 kilogram deadlift happened the day before, so that 115, I was just moving too slow, and I kind of knew, like, as I did the 110, I just wasn't feeling very snappy. Not that I ever really do, but it was just different. So I kind of detoured the session. I kind of knew, like, going in, I didn't feel fantastic, but I just decided to do power cleans instead of full cleans, and the 125 was strangely difficult. Jerks were feeling pretty good. Power cleans, or doing jerks after power cleans, always feel fantastic. I tried to power clean this, but you'll see, did not quite power clean it. went all the way down, which is going to happen, but it's pretty happy with the jerk. But definitely want to continue to work on the shoulder, want to continue to develop things there. But this was the big squat that I hit at the end of the week. Extremely happy with this, and it's like 1:30 in the morning when I'm recording this, so I don't sound probably very excited anymore. And, obviously been talking for 30-some minutes or whatever, but I put the powerlifting plates on besides the Vulcan one, or the Ivanka one in the middle, because you can see the Titan ones over there underneath those 45s. I was too lazy to get it. This was the first 230, or that was the second one. Did I miss it? I might have missed it, but I've watched it enough times myself. I'll make sure that's edited properly for this video, but yeah, extremely happy with that 230 squat. It kind of tells me that I'm definitely moving in the right direction as far as strength goes, and just want to continue to move in that direction just in general. And hopefully, in these next 11 days or whatever for Thanksgiving, I'm able to hit some good lifts over in Columbus. Assuming that all works out. If for whatever reason I'm not able to go up there, or don't feel like it, or for some reason, I'll still be able to lift heavy. Obviously, I have the regular gym I'd go to and be fine lifting at. But yeah, we want to have some good lifts, and maybe the day before. I think if, regardless of how that Wednesday goes, I wouldn't have anything posted till Friday at the earliest. So even on Instagram, because it'll all be on my camera, unless for some reason I use my parents' computer or something, but probably not. So probably Friday with that. So hopefully I have some good clips to share with that, and good lifts in general. But yeah, I'm kind of ready to do a little mini peek and then kind of reset my training. So excited to kind of reassess and kind of plan ahead with how I want things to look, because now the legs are stronger, so now we got to start applying that strength, and hopefully it's some big crazy numbers, but we'll see. We're just going to keep progressing and keep trying to be healthy. That's the big thing. But that's me for this one. I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll talk to you all in the next video. Have a great day. Peace.